India versus England and the Anderson Tendulkar series 2025. What an epic test series that we just witnessed. 46 days of seesaw battles. India up one time, England up the other. The most intense test series that I've seen in a long time. The series finally ended after 46 days at 2-2, which seemed to be a fitting end to the series. We're your hosts for the day's play. I'm Taran.
I'm Ishan.
Welcome back to the In Between Overs podcast. Ishan, how did you feel about that?
Oh, I think you captured it perfectly. Definitely was, from an India England perspective, a series that I think was a level above the 2021 series. I know there's big emotions then with Kohli in the squad, but no, this had its own flavor and its own sort of intensity to it. I think that's the word for me. It was an intense series, starting from Test match 1 all the way to Test match 5. Each session was different. Each player of the match or key moments was entirely different. And I think this was literally a movie. You could make this into a movie and it would have the ups and downs, different protagonists, different antagonists. But no, overall, I think this was an entirely great series, a great display for Test cricket. And I agree with you. 2-2 draw because, as everyone has said after the match, and I completely agree, no team deserved a loss. No team deserved to lose a series. So I think 2-2 was the apt sort of conclusion to such an incredible, incredible test.
The fact that every test match went the distance, we had 25 days of test match cricket. That is insane. It doesn't always turn out that way, and it did in this series, and it just made for absolute cinema. As you said, the entire series was a movie. I think you even mentioned hopefully BCCI or even the ECB create a documentary of the series because it deserves that, just like they did with the '05 Ashes. This one, a lot of people are even talking about comparing this
Yes.
to the 2005 Ashes as one of the most epic battles in history. And this goes right up there with that. I was young when I watched that '05 Ashes, but to me, where I'm at right now in life and my understanding of cricket, this was amazing to watch.
No, I completely agree. And I think the relation to the 05 Ashes was, of course, the intensity in that series, but also I believe in that series as well. The difference between both teams wasn't a lot. And I think there's a stat, I think, said by, I think it was Alistair Cook on one of the podcasts, where the similarity between the 05 series and this series was a lot of the scores in the second innings or the first innings. Sorry, a lot of the scores between the teams in the first innings, the difference wasn't more than 60 to 90 runs max, where each team in their second innings was basically still in the game. And we saw that, I think, in the Lord's Test, where both teams actually, after their first innings, leveled their score. And so it's completely insane. I think that just goes to the fact how the teams were just very well matched, surprisingly.
Yeah, there were only two test matches where one team was clearly in front, but even then, you always felt the other team had still an outside chance of coming back in. I'm talking
Yeah.
about Edgbaston when India pretty much dominated that entire test. But even then, right until day four, until India declared, people were thinking, "Oh, is this enough? Is this enough for baseball?" When the score reached 400, when it reached 500, and then when it started crossing 500, that's when people were like, "Okay, India's well in front here." But then at the same time, it still could have ended as a draw, right? And then same thing at Old Trafford, where England were ahead for majority of that
Yeah.
test match. And you felt the game was going to end day four, but India hung in there, hung in there, hung in there, and that turned into a fight to the end as well.
Yeah. No, exactly that. And I think you look at, again, we'll definitely talk about this in the pod, but different players stepped up, and that's kind of what you need in a 5 test match series because it's long, it's grueling, it's intense. Injuries do happen, as we see from both teams. And what you need is depth and different players to step up. And for England and for India, different players stepped up on different time, on different.
Yeah, absolutely. In the series at a whole, looking at the series at a whole, what was your moment of the series?
See that there are so many different moments come to my mind. Look, my first reaction is that Siraj wicket at the end because
Okay,
that's
that's it.
that's in
That's
my
it
head.
then.
And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I did see that replay thousands of times already. But for me, it was maybe not that moment, but it was that spell that both Siraj and Prasidh Krishna had on day 5. And I know I've been very critical of Prasidh Krishna, but for me, the moment of the series was that hours play in day 5, which really, I guess, was really reminiscent of the entire series where India came out of nowhere to win the game. And for me, yeah, 100%. That moment, that hour was the moment of the series for me. What about yourself?
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind for me, it's a hopefully a funny one. I think it is. Grow some balls, yeah?
Grow some balls. Hey, I was there live for that too. So that was a very, very cool to see. No, no, what a turning point. How did you view that moment? Did you view that moment as a turning point, or did you view that moment as perhaps this is a new India?
I view that moment as this is the passing of the torch from the previous Indian generation. I'm talking Kohli specifically, Rohit Sharma, where
Yeah.
that aggressive mindset where you give it back to the opposition, you don't take shit. And that's exactly what it felt like in that moment when Gill said that. I started remembering captains of the past from other teams. If you remember Michael Clark and Jimmy Anderson, get ready for a
A
broken
broken
effing
arm.
arm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I started thinking about that. So that felt iconic in that moment. People are saying that that wasn't Shubman Gill, but I felt that it felt real. It didn't feel like he was, trying to instigate on purpose. It came out of the moment. It came out of him in that moment, right? So it felt natural and organic. It didn't feel like he was trying to force it out of him, if that makes sense.
No, no, I completely agree. And like, I still remember when I was at the stadium as well. This was right after two DRS decisions went in favor of India when they were batting, where the
Mm.
umpires had given them both out. I think it was actually to Akashdeep, and in the same over, they were both overturned by going upstairs to DRS. And
That's
where
right.
I'm going with this is there was a lot of like tension in the air. There's a lot of people talking back to the umpire in the crowd. So it was a very excitable crowd in that moment. Then when England came to bat, you had Zach Crawley, obviously, gardening, taking his time, which added even more to the crowd, especially the Indian loud crowd chanting back at the English team. Which again, I guess where I'm going with this, it's kind of helped Gill sort of channel that aggression that he may have seen from Kohli era into
Mm.
his captaincy. So I think you were correct in saying that it was sort of that passing of the torch or that sort of transition to sort of no, we're saying it how it is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That was my you could I'm gonna cheat here and take and add another one. So that's gonna be my funny moment of the series.
Okay.
And from on a more like serious inspirational note, I agree with you that day 5 wicket, but more than that, it's the contrasting emotions of Siraj from the Lord's test, going back to that test where he defended Bashir with the most perfect backward defense and the ball backspun onto the stumps for India to lose that match. To see his emotions after that, the man was crying. And then to get to the fifth test, and with him doing the Sue after taking the last wicket to tie the series for India, that was amazing. Just amazing.
No, no, pure cinema, pure cinema. And people
Yeah.
always mention Rishabh Pant as the entertainer, as the blockbuster aspect of Test cricket. I think Mohammad Siraj is up there. He lives for those moments. He definitely has main character syndrome, but very deservedly so. He lives for those moments, and he sometimes makes those moments come to him, or he forces those moments upon himself, which sometimes you may need. So no, I
Yeah.
completely agree. That Sue and that contrast were definitely part of his story.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. So let's go through the series one by one. We'll go through each test and we'll talk about how we felt about each test and the the various swings that occurred. So we'll start right at test one. So we get to um I'm forgetting where
Leads,
where they played. Leeds, that's right.
leads, yeah,
Headingley, right? Headingley
yeah,
Leeds? Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we get to Headingley and it's the test is about to start and I think a lot of us were very curious to see how this Indian team would perform because obviously, they lost Rohit Sharma, they lost Kohli, they lost Ashwin, and these are pillars for the last decade in Indian cricket, not just Test cricket. And so to lose them in such a big series, a lot of people had question marks. A lot of people had question marks about Shubman Gill being captain. about his batting form, how he doesn't bat that well overseas. There were question marks around KL Rahul. Is he going to be able to step up as a senior batsman, right? So there were, and then the bowling, a lot depended on Bumrah. Who else is going to step up? So there were a lot of question marks entering this test. And it felt like as the test progressed, we started getting answers to those questions already.
100%. And to start off with India's innings, the first innings, you had that great opening stand. And that was like one of those refreshing moments where you see Indian batters be successful in a morning English pitch. So
Yeah,
no, I think for sure you did definitely see a lot of positives early on in that test. I think also, we talked Jaiswal had a century that test. KL Rahul looked phenomenal in touch. And then I think Gill also had a century in his first innings, and
and punt
100%
as
in
well.
that bunt as well. So yeah, that was a test which again a lot of great batting on India's front. But I think that's where you saw the little bit of questions on the number three. Obviously, not perform. Siraj didn't play too well, and that obviously led to different things happening throughout the series. But you
Yeah.
definitely, to your point, saw a lot of those questions get answered, and I think especially after looking at the first innings between India and England in the first test, you definitely could see how this could be a very remarkable series.
Yeah, yeah, there were so many swings in that test match, and you felt that India definitely had the upper hand in that test match. I think that the thing that sticks out to me in that test match is the two batting collapses that India had in
Yes.
both innings. They could have batted England completely out of the game in both innings. They had two chances to do it, and they completely messed it up in both innings. And it felt like those two batting collapses were the turning point for that test match to go England's way.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And then I remember as well, we were both very surprised at sort of the Indian team looked great. They looked good. Obviously, there were some questions on India's bowling in the second innings that we had. We were a little bit concerned about, Bumrah not getting wickets, Siraj not performing as well as he should have maybe. But to your point though, it was a test match that really showed a lot of promise.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. And then it ended up with England doing baseball things,
Yeah.
and they ended up chasing, I think it was the second highest chase in England or in their history. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but it was a phenomenal chase at the end for them to chase 373. So cool. So then moving on from there, so India down. Well, they should have been up, in my opinion, in that test match,
Yes. And a
but
lot of
now
people's
they're down.
opinions.
Yeah, they find themselves down, and now we enter Leeds. No, not Leeds. We enter where was the
Birmingham.
next test match? Birmingham. Wow, I'm like completely messing up my venues today. So we enter Birmingham, and once again Stokes win the toss. By the way, we should talk about the tosses.
Yeah,
India
we
lost
didn't even talk
all of
about
them.
that.
All
We
of them.
lost all of them. How is that possible? Someone check the coin. Someone check the
Someone
coin.
check the coin. That's
You got
right.
the
You got
you
like
got
a
the king on both fronts, probably.
Yeah, so India lose the toss again. Stokes
Again.
decides to bat again. Sorry, not bat, to bowl again, meaning he wanted to chase as they've been doing in the recent past. And once again, the Indian batters stood up. That's what stood out to me. The one person that stood out to me in this test match is Shubman Gill. It was a coming of age test match, even though he had that century in the previous test match that sort of answered the question of how he's going to perform as a skipper. This test match just put everything to bed, and you knew from that test match that this guy is going to captain India for the next 5 to 10 years.
No, 100%, 100%. Big 250 plus score, big 100 plus score in the second innings. This was the point in the series where there was a lot of Bradman talks. People were
Yeah,
definitely saying that he's going to get past Sunil Gavaskar's highest scores, highest runs total in a five-test match series. There's potential talks of him beating Bradman's record, and let's be real, a lot of people were nervous and expecting that from him because he just looks so in touch. And we know people call him a flat track bully, but if you whatever pitch you provide and he's able to put in runs at a much greater magnitude than the other players around him, he must be in good nick.
yeah,
269 and really, I guess, batting England out. He was one of the main reasons India was able to bat England out and declare. And when you declare in England, that's a huge deal.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing about flat track bullies, right? You still got to score runs.
You still got to
And
score runs.
if you're a flat track, if it's a flat track, then why isn't everyone scoring hundreds?
Exactly.
Right?
I'm a
People still got out. We had single digit scores in both teams, right? So they had a few ducks in the England side too. In fact,
yeah.
I'm looking at the scorecard right now. In England's first innings, there were one, two, three, four, five, six ducks. Six ducks in that first innings. And I remember that iconic partnership as well between Harry Brook and Jamie Smith. It was
Yeah.
super random and just pissed me off. Yeah, so that was a great test match where India were able to fight back and right away level the series. We had an amazing performance from the bowlers that stepped up. Bumrah didn't play this test match. Everyone wanted Bumrah to play. People were
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, India already won down. They can't afford to lose another test match. They should play Bumrah." The Indian management, GG, decides no, Bumrah's not playing this test match. And we have Akash Deep stepping in, and he put on a
Yes.
performance of a lifetime. 10 wickets for the match. Literally won India the match with the second innings performance.
No, no, literally that. And for again, as I mentioned earlier, in a 5 test match series, you need players to step up. You need a wide variety of players who are able to step up and being able to be match winners. And getting a 10 wicket haul, after a lot of, a lot of discussion about him and his inclusion was a real statement. And especially having those performances early on allow you to have a little more confidence going into other batches and into the series. So to your point, I think Shubman Gill definitely got a boost. And Akash Deep must have gotten a boost as well for that performance because again, that was something that a lot of people were not expecting from him in that second test.
Yeah, and I also remembered him mentioning at the end of the match how he did it for his sister, who I
Yes.
believe is battling cancer, and that was so heartwarming to hear. I always believe when you have a strong why in anything in life, you can do whatever it is that you're doing or working.
No, completely, completely agree. And it definitely seemed like that definitely was part of the energy that he's able to channel into his game and worked very positively for him.
So India pull off the W. It's 1-1.
1-1.
3 matches left. It's literally the best of three now, and we enter the mecca of cricket, where you got to witness one of the test matches. Well, they all were amazing test matches, but maybe because you were there live, you probably agree that this was an epic test match.
Yes, this was. And I think definitely if you again, as you set the scene perfectly, series 1-1, you
Yeah,
know, equaled out heading into Lords, right? Iconic test match. You knew Bumrah was gonna play again. You knew as well, for the first time in many years, Archer's being included as well. So you
yes, yes,
so you had some, some new cameos, some new characters into the plot. So it was a very, very, well made up match. And then as well, insane first innings because one of the few times in Test cricket history, both teams level with the
yeah,
same score after the first innings, which, let's just take a step back. Series 1-1. After the first
yeah.
innings, you're tied. What's going on over here?
Yeah, yeah, it couldn't have gotten better than that. Like these teams were so equally matched, and if there's anything that defines that, it's that moment when you're in the third test match, literally the middle of the series, both the first innings tied. It doesn't get tighter than that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, exactly. And being there in the moment where England tied it up, obviously the crowd was expecting, a single run here to get them a lead or get them above the line. But when they got all out, literally in the crowd, I remember it was a sense of awe that wait, what just happened? But also a sense of appreciation that wow, both teams are tied, series is tied 1-1. This is going to be epic.
Yeah, yeah. So then we had a essentially a bat off for
Yeah,
the second innings, and out of nowhere, Washington Sundar pulls out 4 wickets that literally stops England in their tracks, and they ended up 192 all out. And so India were set a target of 193, and at this stage, like I'm thinking, India's going 2-1 up here.
100%. And I'm not sure if you recall, I think it was after the fourth day, and Sundar also said that he's expecting an Indian win.
Yes, yes, yes. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. With full confidence after lunch too. Just after lunch.
Yes. He timed it. He said it. He said it. He said it. But
Yeah.
obviously, again, just want to chime back a little bit to what you referenced earlier. We had that little tussle with grow your balls or whatever Shubman Gill has said. So tensions were high, and then India was able to limit England's score. So you can obviously expect that England's going to pounce back. You could expect England's going to go full throttle, and the fifth day was incredible.
It was absolutely incredible. And Ben Stokes, the skipper, England's main man, he stepped up and his spells were insane. I think he had a 10-over spell and a 9-over spell
Yes.
or the flip, whatever it was, but he had some long spells and he really, really pushed to get England over the line and he achieved it.
Yes, yes. And obviously, what a great stand by India's lower order with Jadeja leading from the front with a lot of good support from both Bumrah and Siraj. But again, we talk about this all the time. You can't expect your lower order to make those match winning runs. Has to be made by the top and middle order. But then again, some of the learnings from this was two pronged. Firstly, England needs Stokes, in my eyes. I think Stokes is a match winner. He's their captain, and England needs Stokes to sort of get over the line. And, if you take another look at the Ashes coming down everyone's throats, he definitely needs to be fit and ready for the Ashes for England to be a good competitor. And second, I think that was a turning point for Team India to, especially the lower order, where everyone had to realize they had to step up. Sorry, the lower
Yeah.
middle order, where even the likes of Washington Sundar, who actually I think got out on a duck to Archer, he was talking big the day
Yeah.
before, and the next day
Yeah,
they
he
got
did.
out duck, right? So I think it was a moment of India's middle to lower order to really understand that this is a big series and you have to step up. And I really do hope the confidence that Siraj got from that stand, he was able to channel it into the rest of the series. But again, as well, Jadeja played extremely well as well. So that's, I guess, three quick learnings on my front after that test match.
Yeah. So then England pull off the win. They're back up. It's 2-1. We go into the fourth test at Old Trafford, Manchester, and India absolutely get pummeled. Well, they did okay in the first innings. I'm talking about when England batted. Just a performance of a lifetime from Joe Root and Ben Stokes.
Yes.
The entire top six. I think the only person that failed was Harry Brook in that innings, but man, it felt like they batted India out of the game. I think they scored, yeah, I have it in front of me, 669. I think they were leading by over 300 runs. And at this stage, you're thinking the game, India cannot win the game for sure. The only option is for them to come up with a draw. And then immediately they're 0 for 2.
0 for 2 in the first over. In the first
Yeah.
over, Jaswal out and Sai Sudarshan coming back to number 3 gets out. Unfortunate, but you had an incredible stand by Gill Rahul, who we mentioned as well, had an incredible series. And then Mr. Captain himself, Shubman Gill, really stepping up to the front and leading and really, really protecting his wicket, which everyone knew was super important. India was going for the draw. Time dictated, it was difficult to get a victory. So you needed a big stand after those 2 wickets, and we got that. What did you think about Shubman Gill's performance, especially after closing off, I think, day 4 without losing his wicket? Because that was huge to not lose a wicket rest of day 4.
He scored first in the series, and by far, this was the best. This is probably his best 100 to date as an Indian Test match cricketer because of the situation that he came in when India were literally down and out. I'm literally looking at Cricinfo's ball by ball of when Sai Sudarshan got out, and the first line says, "My word, 2-2, and India are sinking fast." In that moment, most people thought that this game was going to be done by the end of day 4. And the fact that him and Rahul were able to bat the entire day and come back the next day, and then Shubman brings up his ton, that was, if the second test match solidified him as a captain, this one solidified him as one of the best in the world right now in terms of a test match batsman. To play in that with that pressure and to literally drag India from losing into a situation where they can pull off a draw was amazing.
No, 100%. I think both Shubman Gill and KL Rahul faced over 230 balls each. And to really soak up those balls, get the bowlers tired, its implications not only for this test match, because you're again playing for the draw, but also for the next test match as well. So I think, yeah, definitely huge impact from KL Rahul and Shubman Gill. But then also we got a lot of support down the order as
Eh,
well. So
Have to
Washington
talk about
Sunder
that
coming up the order, right? Came up the order. Then
because
obviously,
Rishabh Pant was injured.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
big
And then
injury, out for the
big
series.
injury. Yep. And then Jadeja doing Jadeja things. What were your thoughts on I guess our all rounders?
Yeah, this partnership, and it seems to be one that we're going to see a lot going forward in Indian cricket. I think Jaddu has always been cemented his spot in the team. He might as well have a statue in the team.
Yeah.
But now Washi has definitely solidified his spot as the next in line when it comes to taking Jadu's spot. I know Akshar Patel's in the wings as well. With the way he's performed, with the way he's batted, has been nothing short of extraordinary. And they both deserve these centuries. And we can also talk about the handshake gate that happened, where Stokes goes up to Jaddu to shake their hands to end the match as a draw, and Judge is like, nah, I'm getting my century. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then that led into a whole debate as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, and again, I think there's two learnings we can get from that and that instance. One, India's playing on their own terms, right? Like, you say what you want, you try wasting time at Lords, we'll call you out. Now you're trying to not let us get our well-deserved centuries. No, 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 we're gonna play it out. So definitely India trying to dictate, basically the proceedings in their control. And second, I definitely think that partnership really impacted England in a psychological
Yes.
way for the next test. They were out in the field for a very long time. And especially when you make 600 runs plus, your game plan is to bowl the other team out. It's a captain's decision, it's probably the leadership's decision to take the game that way. And it did not work out. So obviously, from a planning perspective, from a leadership perspective, the England team was under pressure because their plans did not work out. So obviously, having that impact psychologically as well as physically, because you're obviously out in the field for a very long time, I think definitely had an impact on the fifth test.
Yeah, because it ended up getting to a situation where the England bowling attack bowled 258 overs in the test match versus India's at 157. So therein lies a big advantage for India. They were able to put miles into the legs of all the bowlers, especially Archer, and almost guaranteed that he was not going to play the next match.
Yes, and Stokes.
And for Stokes as well, And that's literally what happened. So it's a great segue into the next test match. So we get to the fifth test match. India needs to win to tie the series. England can pull off a draw and they walk away with the win. So a place where India has done well in the past, you felt that going to the test match, India had the momentum because of what they did at Manchester and
Yeah.
because of all the drama that took place at the end. You felt that India were ahead in terms of momentum, and it showed. It showed throughout the test match, although there was still that seesaw battle that we saw throughout the series. So we get to the test match. India somehow get to 224 on an absolute grass field.
It's not a
The
road
ball was
anymore.
hooping. It's not a road anymore. The ball was just hooping around all over the place. And I remember messaging you like England didn't even bowl that well on day one, and they were still able to restrict India to 224.
Yeah, no, you had a lot of new bowlers come in. I remember Josh Tung's first spell was literally all over the place. So you had a lot of extras coming in, which was great for India's perspective. But to your
38.
point, 38 extras, incredible. But to your exact point, if you hone in on the first innings, a lot of the batsmen who did step up in the previous test match were not able to step up. And you got someone who, we said in the last pod, received a little faith from GG and Shubman Gill from there, he stepped up and he got, a very respectable total when it came to in comparison to the other batsmen. So just enough, 224, which is, I guess, a total that allowed India's bowlers to bowl at something, which you sometimes need after, the ball's nipping around and you lose wickets cheaply.
And once again, it almost felt like England were going to run away with this match in the first innings again, where Crawley and Duckett, I'll never forget, they put up 92 for the first wicket in 12 overs. In 12
Yeah.
overs in a test match. And I remember again messaging you, what the hell am I watching right now? And and then out of nowhere, Siraj, Akashdeep, and Krishna step up and they were able to bowl England off for 247. Literally, England lost 10 for 155, which
Unreal.
when you look at the start they got, you couldn't have even scripted that. So it was a great fighting performance by India in that first innings. And then Jaiswal started with a century, ended with a century, and it was a impactful and a mature century from him. I must say that helped India get to 396. Once again, they got some great contributions by Jaddu and the way Washi finished. And I purposely saving this for last. An unexpected performance from Akashdeep.
Yes, yes. Night Watchman doing way beyond required. And that's what I'm saying. You needed players to step up in places that you're not expecting them to step up. If I look
Yeah.
at Arshdeep, sorry, Akashdeep's performances across the test, I look at that test in Birmingham, and then I look at his batting performance here. And you need those momentum shifting spells or batting performances. And if you as one player are able to provide two of them in a 5 match series, I think you've done your job.
Yeah. And then England are set a target of 374. Again, it can't get any better. They literally chased 373 in the first inning, the first test match, sorry, with almost ease towards the end. And you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, I hope this doesn't happen again. And you see the score at 100 something, 106 for three, and you're thinking, okay, and you're
Just
saying
before
consistent
that,
wicket.
just before that,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought they
yeah.
were looking well because the opening partnership was at 50 runs and no outs going into day 5 and to day 4. But then we saw something happen with an Indian bowler who did something.
Yes.
Siraj stepped up and just put a pause in the momentum, which I think was a little bit of an indication to the audience that no, 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 the movie's not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, great, great point, great point. I remember that last ball. I was actually driving. I was camping that weekend, and I was driving, listening to what was happening. And I remember before the ball was delivered, India changed the field. They
Yes,
they put
yes.
backward square leg and backward and deep fine leg, essentially indicating that it's going to be a bouncer. And it was the most perfect bluff of all time, where he comes in and bowls is an amazing Yorker right at the base of off stump. Crawley was definitely sitting on his back foot, waiting for the
Yeah.
bouncer. He had no answer to that ball. And that sort of lifted India at the end of the day. And you're absolutely right. They needed that. And they got it from Siraj.
Yes, yes, no, exactly that. So then, as you were saying, in England, where I think you said 160 for three or 150 for three. Sorry, 106 for three, and they were looking good. You still had a lot of time, so time was not an issue or a constraint on England's front. And you had a lot of good batters coming up as well.
Yeah, yeah, and enter Harry Brook, who turned out to have some phenomenal performances in the series,
Yes,
none bigger than this one, where first off, we have to mention that the times when he scored runs, he did get let-offs. And he was caught by Siraj on 19, only for Siraj to step on the boundary line. Literally, Siraj go from hero to zero in a span of less than a day. And at this point, you're thinking, I hope this doesn't happen. And it does. He ends up scoring a century. England get to 300 for three. And once again, I remember messaging you. I was watching this match live at the camping spot I was at. And I was like, this game's done. I'm done. I'm turning it off. And please tell us what happened next.
but hey, I think I had nothing better to do, so I kept watching. But then I saw a few wickets tumble, and every time there's a wicket, I messaged you, Brook out, Bethel out, Rude out. And then you're like, wait, what? No, incredible, incredible, incredible little passage of play there. Right after lunch, I believe on day 4. Or was it after tea on day 4? But right at the cusp of where the game wasn't fully in England's favor, they were still running away with it. But those 3 wickets in a very short period of time allowed a lot of the Indian fans to rise up and make more noise. But it also gave India the little indication that no, 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 the door's not completely closed yet. England had the opportunity to bat it out, take their time, but losing, and as we know this a lot all the time. Losing consecutive wickets in a cricket match can really, really have an impact on the other batting orders, and we saw that again this Test match.
Yeah, absolutely. We got the ending that the series deserved. Day five, England needs 35 runs, India needs 4 wickets. You couldn't have scripted it better. And first 2 balls, England get 2 boundaries, and we're down to 27 runs. And I'm like, at this point, and I know I didn't watch it live, but at this point, anyone would have felt that the game slipping away from India.
Yeah, no, I definitely did, and it was Prasid Krishna bowling, and I definitely said some things to Prasid Krishna in my mind, especially after those 2 balls. But no, India still pushed through. Siraj was able to get that key wicket up front and really allow India to sort of hunt down the opposition. And what a hours play of Test match cricket. Again, went to day five, and again, no, there was a period in the last day where you still didn't know who's going to take the series away, which I think is
Yeah.
just great for Test cricket. And Siraj and Prasidh Krishna were able to get key wickets at key times. You saw again some great determination from Wokes as well coming in with his
Right.
injury, and we saw that throughout
Yeah.
this series from various players. We saw that with Rishabh Pant, we saw that with Shoaib Bashir as well. Shout out to Shoaib Bashir for coming out and bowling at Lords. But no, you saw some great determination at the end from Vokes, and my moment of the series happened, and India was able to draw the series 2-2, which I think we both agree was the correct sort of outcome for this entire.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it would have been fair to either team for the series to end 3-1, whether it's England 3-1 or India 3-1. I think, as we said at the top of the show, these two teams were so equally matched that it just needed to end with a tied result, and that's exactly what happened. So yeah, what a series it was. Just phenomenal to watch. In terms of the rivalry that has now built between India and England, how do you feel about this rivalry versus India Australia, which is the other big one?
That's such a great question. I think that the England team and India team, with all the outbursts that happen and the controversies on the field, I still think they respect each other or get along a little more than India and Australia. We saw Root after the series calling Siraj a fake angry man, you basically alluding to the fact that Siraj has to show his anger, but he's actually a really nice guy. And we saw Shubman Gill giving a lot of respect to Harry Brook and Stokes as well. So I think there's definitely mutual respect, and definitely the teams are very passionate of winning. But I think it's a nice rivalry because the rivalry, I think, is contained in the field. You have those moments, you have those controversies, but it's strictly contained to skill and your determination in the pitch. Nothing really happening outside, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, I think we definitely have a rivalry brewing, especially individual battles.
Yes.
We saw Duckett and Akashdeep. We saw Root and Prashid Krishna a
Yeah.
bit. We saw Siraj and everybody.
Yeah. Siraj versus 11.
Yeah, yeah, we saw some between Harry Brook and Washi as well, where Harry was chirping Washi to get on
Yes.
with it at
Yes.
the end of day four, and then
Yeah.
Washi hits back with a phenomenal 50. Right, so lots of little mini player battles and rivalries throughout the Test series, which I think if these players are able to maintain their spots in the team going forward, can result in more phenomenal viewing in the next series.
Yeah, I know, and you definitely hope to see it because both England team and India team are, they're fairly young players that we'll see for years to come by. You'll see Washington Sundar continue. You'll see Harry Brook continue. There's also potential talks of Harry Brook potentially taking the vice captaincy over Ollie Pope. So again, you see a lot of these players hopefully continuing going forward, and we definitely saw England come to India a few years ago. They're expecting to come back soon as well. So definitely, have some rivalries and great moments there as well. So I think it's the now called Anderson Tendulkar series is poised very well.
Awesome. So let's wrap it up with give us one word that you would use to describe this series and then a short reflection on why this series will stick in your mind for years.
Yeah, and I said this word in the beginning, and I'm gonna stick with this word, intense. I think intense is the apt word for this entire series, and I think the best way to describe why I chose this word is basically looking at a few the key moments that happened during the test. When we had, for example, Siraj, Bumrah, and Jadeja holding it down at Lords. It was in very an intense viewing of watching them basically of watching Jadeja basically play 5 balls and going for a single on the last ball, playing 5 balls, going for a single on the last ball. It was intense watching. And then you had sort of day 4 and day 5 where you had Harry Brook and Joe Root play really well. It was intense because they were going at an intense level against India. Then you saw the pitch sort of conditions change. The bowling of India on day 4 was very intense, and then day 5 closing it off, an intense watch. I've said that word a few times. I'm gonna say it again. That test was intense.
Awesome. For me, it is seesaw. Just
Yeah.
just seesaw is the word for me. Just seeing how it ebbed and flowed throughout all 25 days of cricket that we had was just so gripping. I think you mentioned at the start of our pod here, it was theater, it was cinema, it was everything that you'd want to see in a phenomenal TV show. And you saw that with this series. So I'm going to remember this for years because of the battles that took place, the fight showed by both teams, the individual performances by Shubman Gill, Mohammad Siraj, Rishabh Pant, Stokes, Root, Brook. It had it all.
Yeah,
You couldn't
yeah.
have asked for more. Um, yeah, series of a lifetime. I feel so good. I think I've mentioned this to you before that we were able to cover this series and we can literally show what we covered to if we end up having families in the future to our kids or our grandkids in the future. That's what makes me happy, to be honest.
Oh, 100%, 100%. This was definitely a memorable series in my test viewing history, but I think I would put it alongside, as I mentioned, England's series of 2021, as well as the Border Gavaskar Trophy, where India were able to pull it off at the Gabba. I wish I had a reaction video then, but I'm glad I have sort of a series reflection and reaction videos out now.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to the end of capping off a phenomenal test series. We've said it so many times now, but it saddens that we have to no longer talk about this series in this capacity. Obviously, it's going to be in our memories forever, but what a series. And that stops.